Hi guys, and welcome to another kit review. Hope everyone is fit and well in this new world of ours. Okay, so today we're having a look at a kit from Bronco. Kit number is CB35050. It is a German Rheinmetall Rheintochter R-2 anti-aircraft missile and launcher. Okay, so this kit came out in 2016 from Bronco. Alright, it is a decent size, fair size box. Okay, got a bit of weight in it. It's alright, so let's have a look at the box first. Okay, so what you see is 3 photos of the actual kit. So this is the actual kit. This is another Bronco kit, which is CB35082. Okay, so it's a combined the missile launcher with a vehicle. Right, so that's another kit that you can have a look at. This kit has 2 sheets of photo etch parts plus decals. Right, that's Bronco's address in China. And on the other side, you have 3 color drawings of the missile on the launcher, and the usual 14+ warning. Alright, so that's basically what you see as far as the box is concerned. So let's have a look in the actual box and instructions. Bronco's nice glossy paper, we'll have a look at those shortly. So in this kit I also have the wood grain decal fine veneer for the wings of the rocket, so I'll put that over there, and a bit of advertising for Bronco, a bit more advertising for Bronco plus colour. And that's as far as the paperwork is concerned. So let's have a look and see what we have. Alright, so first bag out has 2 sprues in it. This is the rocket body. Remembering this is 35th scale, so this is quite a large surface to air missile. And the other sprue, part of the launcher, I can already see some really nice bolt detail on here. So we'll put that aside. Next bag is the launcher platform base, as you can see. So it looks like nice, some very fine parts in there. Next bag is a sprue of some very, very fine details. So we'll have a look at those shortly. This will be the mechanism for the launcher. Next bag is more launcher parts. This is the shield. Next bag has 2 sprues, exactly the same. So this looks like seats and, yes, other very fine parts for the launch mechanism. So the missile itself is fairly straightforward, but the launcher is going to be the most complex part. Next bag, more parts for launcher. Launcher size with some very nice detail. Yep, all the launch instruments, paneling, etc. Okay, so we'll put that away. We'll have a look at all the sprues separately anyway. And yet again, more launch parts, launch rails, etc. Pivot points, the whole thing, all with nice rivet and bolt detail on it. So put those aside, and the last, no, not quite. Alright, so it looks like another pivot point in this bag, so we'll have a look at that shortly. And the last bag, resealable bag, has the 2 PE sheets in it, plus a very small decal sheet which has the instrument facings on it. Okay, so that's what's in the box. We will get rid of the box, and very shortly we'll have a look at the instructions. Okay, so welcome back. Let's have a look at the instructions. Alright, so on the front you have English, Chinese. This gives you a rundown of the reason why they developed the missile, because the Flak 88s couldn't reach the height of incoming bombers, etc, etc. Now it needs to be noted that with this particular surface-to-air missile, there was the R1, the R2 and the R3. So the R1 was a two-stage solid propellant missile, and the R2 was a further development, but because the R2 was no great improvement on the R1, it was actually dropped in December 44. The R3 was liquid fueled, but they only did 6 test firings before the whole program was ended in February 45. So all up, there were 82 test firings, but no actual field deployment for this missile. Okay, so having said that, let's have a look and see what's inside. Right, usual, cut this, make 2 of these, bend that. More warnings about how to operate the decals. These are your color callouts. So you got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 color callouts. Mr. Hobby, Hobby Color, Humbrol and Tamiya. And then we go on to the sprue layout. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 plus the decals. So this is quite complex. The missile itself is not complex, but the actual launcher has a lot to it. Okay, so speaking of which, please be careful to read before, lots of small parts. We start off with the launcher. Alright, so basics to structure. It also tells you the parts not to cement, because they do move. Okay, so we've got the cruciform base, very similar to, I won't say similar to, but standard cruciform base used in most German anti-aircraft, like 88s, etc. And then we carry on to PE parts. Now this is details, okay, about the parts themselves and where they go and which way around they go. Then we get to more structure, more parts for the actual base. So as I said, this is quite a complex model. There's a lot of small parts in it, a lot of PE, so it would be for a moderate to experienced builder, definitely not a beginner. And again, same thing. So it will show you launching state and transport position, where the arms go, etc. So since this doesn't have a transport trailer, I think you'd probably just set it up with the launching state. So next we go to, so this is the actual launching instrument boxes. Okay, fairly straightforward. And then next is the nose of the missile itself. Okay, so this was unusually, and then the engine for this missile was in the front. Okay, it was actually in the front of the missile, and the warhead was behind. So in the middle here you have the exhausts, steering vanes, Okay, and then you've got the actual warhead. Let's carry it in the middle of it. So steps 10, 11, 12, 13 and 14 are literally construction of the missile itself. It's fairly straightforward. There's not too many parts. Okay, this is the missile exhausts. Wings go on. You do have some option here, so you can have the braces between the rear main fins or leave them off completely. You don't have to put those in. That's just an option for even the R1 or R2. Okay, and next option is to have the main vanes put on. So again, you can leave those off if you want. There wasn't a great deal of difference between an R1 and an R2, apart from vanes and things like that. Like I said, the performance of the R2 wasn't anything overly much on top of the performance of the R1, so they did drop the R2. It was just a waste of their resources, actually. Okay, and next comes construction of the actual launch rail for the missile. So as you can tell from here, these are just more parts for the launch rail that go underneath. And then, so when it says when the transportation status, the launch frame does not install the missile. Yeah, that's not quite good English, but I understand. Basically, if you're transporting the frame, it doesn't have a missile on it. Missiles were always carried separately. Okay, so next we come to the main part of the launch frame. Sides, more small parts going in the sides, more instruments and connections going on. And then we get to even more. So this is all fine parts. This is all PE parts that are going together to form just the launch rails and the attachment points for the missile underneath. Alright, so some of this you won't see, but it is a lot of fine detail, and that's why I say this is definitely a moderate to experienced builder for this one. So the most complex thing is the launcher. As I said, more parts go together. We just keep carrying on building the launcher and all the instrument binnacles, which are, as you can tell from this part here, this one is made up of 8 separate parts. So it is quite complex. Brilliant detail. Alright, I love it. Okay, so more parts go on to the sides of the launcher, more PE parts, more very small connections, and then we just keep going through the steps. We're already up to step 29. So there is a lot to this. So good detail, brilliant detail. It's the kind of thing you would definitely display in launch mode, and definitely give it a little bit of weathering to make it look just that, bring the details out. Alright, so as you can tell, this is just one side of the launch platform, and it is very, very complex, extremely complex. Then we get the operator's seat going on that side, and that's just one side going on to the launcher. The other side goes on. Even the shields themselves have PE parts that need to be folded correctly. I like the idea, the way they've done this, and actually shown the PE in separate little boxes. There's a lot of PE in this, so a lot of care, but a good challenge. I love the fact that it's got a lot of detail in it. Right, so we're still on the shields. So as you can tell, let me bring it down a bit. The shields themselves have a lot of detail, and I mean a lot of detail. Separate panels, okay, separate handles, all sorts of little separate small parts that go together and just to form the shield of the launcher. So once that's complete, the shields are attached to the main body, and you do have a choice of the launching state where the shields are actually folded out, or transport where the shield is actually folded in on itself. And then you just get to the last, almost the last step. We're already up to 38. Okay, there is a lot in this, and this is where you mount the launcher to the actual cruciform base and the actual mount. So this is what it looks like launching, and this is what it would look like in a transport position with no missile. So depending on how you wanted to present this, you could actually put the launcher separately, folded up, so you could see a lot more of the detail. But I think you see a fair bit of detail with the missile on it anyway. Okay, and then we've got, so these are extra bits. This is the small sprue with the round bits in it. This is so you can mount it to a vehicle. So the vehicle, hard to identify which one it is. So possibly a Panzer chassis or something like that. Okay, so that's what these extra bits are for, and that's what it looked like if you mounted it to the vehicle. So that is, yeah, it could be, hard to tell what it is. It's either a Panther or a Tiger chassis, something like that. Maybe a Panther. No, it's not a Panzer IV, so it's unusual. Not sure what vehicle it is. Anyway, so first up, what we've got is colour guide. So this is steel and flat back and wood brown on the actual fins, and overall for the launcher, overall dark yellow. The next one, we have steel flat back and a dark green camouflage over the launcher, red brown actual launch rail. Okay, and then the last colour was on the advertising sheet, which is this one, which is basically the same, dark yellow, green, except it has red brown splotches on the shield. Okay, and looks like a green, overall dark green missile. And that is it as far as the instructions concerned. There is a bit of advertising for some other Bronco 48 scale and 35th scale models, and there was the other advertising sheet, which is this one. Same again, 35th scale, 48 scale, all their current kits at the time of the release of this kit in 2016, and same again on the back. Figure kits, vehicle kits, tanks, some aircraft, things that are coming soon, new kits back in 2016. Okay, and that brings us to the end of the instrument part. Bear with me, I'll be back in a second with the sprues. Okay, so let's have a look at the sprues. First up, I'm going to show you these. Right, so these are, and they came with the kit, which I bought off the internet. I can't remember how much it cost me. I believe this one was around $45. So these are fine veneer plywood paneling from Ushi. Okay, the item code is 1005. These are accessories that can be used on this kit, because the actual tail fins, etc., were an actual just plywood veneer. Alright, that's all they were. It's just plywood, simple wooden fins, but they did the job. So, for a bit of authenticity, the seller that I bought this off actually threw those in as a bonus for me. So, they're quite good. I'll give you a couple of shots of those anyway, just in case you want to keep an eye out for them. Alright, so let's have a look at the rest. So what we have is this. Now hopefully I get this in focus for you. Naturally enough, I will give you stills for everything. This is the decal sheet, not shit, sorry, my bad. It is literally just 3 instruments on the launcher. That's all that it is. Okay, so very small, easily lost if you're not careful. So I put that aside so I don't lose it. And then you have 2 PE. So you've got this one. That's a bit glary, sorry. Right, which is lots of straps, etc. Some very fine PE. And then you've got this one. Okay, so turning that over and around. So these are all parts of the instruments, also parts of the shields on the front of the launcher, and they are extremely fine. So literally, if you've never used PE before, this is going to be a challenge. It's definitely going to be for someone who's had experience with PE and has a lot of patience. They are extremely fine. Both of these sheets do have plastic backing, front and top, to make sure that it's not damaged, and they are extremely fine. Okay, so that's the PE that comes with the kit. Right, so let's have a look at a couple of small ones. Okay, first up, these are the shields and the accessory parts for mounting to a vehicle. Fairly straightforward. This is just a couple of round bits with swivel points. That's an easy one. And this is your shields. So the shields themselves do have, let's see if I can get it to the point where you can see it, some very fine detail on them already. Okay, very fine bolt detail. It's very nice. No flash. And on the other side, same again, bolt detail, which corresponds to bolt detail on the other side. So this is really a really nice detail. That's just the shields for the launcher. Okay, so we'll put that aside. And let's have a look at the base of the launcher. So, next sprue, base of the launcher. You've got detail on here, which is very nice. Some very fine parts attached to this sprue, which will need extreme care removing, otherwise they're just going to break. Okay, so that's just the launcher base. These are the sides of the launcher base. That's what they are for. So it is not just a top and sides. You actually get to put the sides onto the base itself. Okay, so as I said, some very fine parts. Extremely fine parts on this sprue. Right, so moving on, let's have a look at the next sprue. So this is the next sprue, and yes, there is a lot of fine pieces on this. So as you can tell, these are all parts for the launcher handles, switches, etc., parts for the launcher shield, and the detail on these is quite good. Right, so I can't fault Bronco for this. The detail on this is extraordinary, down to little bolts and things all over. So this is, as I said, this particular model will take a lot of patience to put together, and there's a lot of small parts to lose to the carpet monster, isn't there just? Isn't there just? Okay, so next we will have a look at more parts for the launcher, and these two are exactly the same. So I'll put that one aside and we'll have a look at this one. So you've got operator seats, handles, wheels, etc. Again, lots of fine parts, and these are basically the mounting, mounting for the missile, hooks, etc. Yes, so these are all launcher parts, and like I said, there's a lot of small bits, some very tiny bits on here. So yeah, but the detail, you can't fault Bronco on the detail. This is quite a complex kit. Okay. Okay, so what have we got next? Next we have, alright, so this is the launch rail sides, okay? Alright, so that's your gear, and as you can tell, there is a lot of bolt detail on these, okay? It's a very nice and very crisp bolt detail, which will come up quite well. Let's have a look at the other side. Okay, bit plain. There are some on here on both sides, some molding divots and bumps which will need to be removed very carefully. You probably may not see them, but I would remove them anyway, just in case. So why spoil a bottle just for something like that? But yep, the detail on that, that's actually really beautiful. Alright, so next sprue, we'll have a look at will be more launcher. This kit is primarily the launcher. It is the most complex part of the whole kit. So here we have the launcher, the sides. Alright, these are the main instrument binnacles, again with some very nice detail. So basically all the bits and pieces, the small bits and pieces, will eventually end up being attached to this and these. So as you can see, I hope you can see, There you go. That is, again, some very nice crisp bolt detail, wiring detail, etc. on here, and some very, so this will be tricky to get off without bending or damaging, but not as hard as some. Okay, so that's the main body of the launcher on that sprue. Next is this one, which is the launch base. As you can tell, pivot point, main pivot. Okay, so again, very nice bolt detail, very crisp. The detail on the rail here is extremely fine and really sharp, so I like that. And so far on these sprues I have not seen any major flash. Lots of small parts. The attachment points are quite heavy on some of them, but with a bit of care you shouldn't have a problem removing those. Okay, and that brings us to the last sprue, which is the missile itself. So there isn't a great deal to do with the missile. Missile body, nose cone, exhaust, fins. So you've got the main fins at the back, you've got a set of fins in the middle, and then you've got the smaller searing fins that go on the nose. So this was steered from the front. As I said, this was a forward engine missile with the warhead behind the motor. Okay, so let's have a look at the detail. So on the fins, because these are, as I said, plywood, there is only bolt detail at the bottom. Alright, so that's why I've got the plywood applications to make this look like the wood that it really was. Unless you're good at painting wood, yeah, which I'm average, not great, I thought that was probably the better way to do it. The missile itself has got some panel lines, but being a missile, it was fairly smooth and straightforward. Okay, so pardon me, that was lunch. These are the exhaust nozzles for the rocket engine. Alright, and that is basically, as far as I can tell, the whole kit. The whole kit. So there you have it. So there's Bronco's Rheintochter R-2. They call it an anti-aircraft missile. Nowadays we'd call it a surface-to-air missile. Okay, as I said, lots of small parts. A very complex launcher, not so complex missile. I believe there are some mock-ups or ones that have been put together from bits and pieces in a couple of museums in Europe, but apart from that, this is a very rare subject. Okay, so I think that brings us to the end of this review. and as usual, I hope you have got something from it. If you enjoy this, please like, comment, subscribe. Anyway, enough of the advertising. Sorry. Like I said, I hope you got something from it. And until next time, thanks guys. See you later.